Welcome to another edition of the Skyhook. I am your host, James K., and right now you are listening to the podcast version of the show. Before we get into the goods, I want to encourage you to follow the show on Twitter at the handle @Skyhookin', along with rating and reviewing our show on Apple Podcast and Podbean. As always, you can contact anyone involved with the show at our mailbag, which is theskyhookmailbag@gmail.com. Did you not hear that the first time? Okay. It is theskyhookmailbag@gmail.com. Or you can tweet at me if you want any information quickly. I'm typically on my phone. You can tweet at me at my handle, which is James_M_KAY. Folks, this was a fun pod to do this week. I recorded a conversation with someone whose identity I will reveal after the intro music, but wow, this was a good one. I never talked to him until today, and we had a lot of fun with it. I was pleasantly surprised. He did such a great job for this being his podcast debut. So without further ado, Mike, cue the intro. If you are a Chicago Sky fan and you have a Twitter, you would have to be wearing a blindfold as you scroll through your feed to not see this person's account. They are the most active Sky fan in the Twitter sphere, and I am just so lucky to have them on right now. It is the Sky Show Chai. I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to say that during the podcast, but I'm going to just call you Brian. Brian, how are you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good. Feeling good after the win. Thanks for having me on here. This is a debut of sorts for me, so happy to be on the podcast.
I'm so excited to have you. I've been wanting to have you on for so long now, so I'm glad we finally get to talk. I want to talk to you about your Sky background in a little bit, maybe towards the end of the pod, because I have some things I want to talk to you about in terms of merchandise with the WNBA. But the Sky just played the Dream in a true nail-biter, so with 6.9 seconds left, and the Sky down by one, Courtney Vandersloot caught the inbound pass from Diamond to Shields, maneuvered her way towards the rim, drawing two defenders in before dumping the ball off to Stephanie Dolson for what would be the game winner. I want to get some of your instant reactions after this one. I mean, the Sky ended up winning 77-76. I don't know about how you felt about this game after it concluded at in the afternoon or whatever, but should this game have been as close as it was in your mind?
I think usually these afternoon games, I feel like both teams usually start off pretty slow, and the Sky showed that pretty early on with about like a 13-0 start or something like that, with the Atlanta kind of going off on offense. So I kind of expect that slowness. I even tweeted out, this felt like a trap game. This felt like a game Sky probably should have won, but easily could have not. I saw both viewpoints. But yeah, it becomes just execution plays. It's up to just whatever happens in the game. And I felt like the Sky, and especially Diamond to Shields in that first half, kind of got her offense going, kind of forced the issue a lot. You can see her body just fly all over the place. And it was pretty good in the start. So it felt pretty good to keep it close throughout the whole time. I felt like it really, I kind of see the Sky having to deal with a top six of the league and the bottom six of the league, where they really had to beat those bottom six teams to try to make sure they make it to the playoffs. So this was a bottom six team. So I ideally shouldn't be as close, but a win's a win, and you kind of take it and keep moving on from there.
I mean, yeah, a win at home is great, and doing it in dramatic fashion is, the kind of the icing on the cake. I hate that phrase, but it's a bonus for them. But this team has said over and over again they want to be a competitive playoff team, and the Dream are the worst offensive team in the league, and I mean, they scored the least amount of points of any team in the W, and I think they have the worst offensive rating in the league, and the 8th worst defensive rating after, being one of the better defensive teams last year. I don't know. I just feel like this should have been an easy W at home. And it makes me a little bit uneasy moving forward with this team because I mean they're technically they've won the last 3 out of 4 games or 4 out of 5. It's not, no, I think it's 3 out of 4. I mean, those teams that they're beating, it's like the bottom feeders of the league, like you were saying, and it really does worry me that, like, you know, maybe this team had lofty expectations going forward, or like before, after they had that huge win against the Sun at home a couple weeks back. I don't know. I mean, the last 10 games have been extremely wild for this team. Like, the Sky, like, I don't know, I feel like they've had the highest of highs, like going back to that game against the Sun. But they've also experienced a lot of lows recently. Like, how are you feeling about the team, like this team, and like, do you have like any reasonable expectations, just given their lack of consistency right now?
Yeah, I think I even remember Diamond saying in a quote before in like a Sun Times Madeline Kenny article. This was like in early June. Like, they kind of knew it was going to be like a roller coaster ride for this team this year, because it's kind of like somewhat post rebuilding, kind of like having to break old habits, like growing pains together with this new coach and everything. So I kind of was expecting like a roller coaster, kind of with these highs and with these lows. I knew even like last year there were a few like statement games where the Sky were able to beat like teams that it felt like they weren't supposed to. So it was kind of like there was consistency with the roster, but the roster also had its inconsistencies. So it was like consistently inconsistent also. But yeah, there was just a lot kind of just expect. I felt like this was a playoff team, but I didn't feel like this was like a top 3 maybe playoff team yet, with everything new and all the variables that could happen in kind of the league. It's rough for a Sky fan to be having to see like these wins or all those like tough lot, that losing streak. But it's kind of like roll with the punches. Like, this is how a team becomes really good and dominant, is like dealing with not just the wins but the losses as well. And I think that's what makes kind of a stronger fan base too. Kind of just seeing it like through these tougher times, so like the wins feel kind of a little bit better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess I'm curious to see, I mean, you talked about the top teams in the league and the bottom feeders of the league. I mean, where would you put the Sky? Like, would you put them in the top 6 or would you put them in the bottom 6? Because, I mean, you really can make a case for either one.
Well, I think, like, preseason, like, I'd have my top 6, including, like, Phoenix and Atlanta. And those seasons have kind of gone a bit wary, while, like, the Lynx and the Storm, which I expect to be, like, a bottom team, to kind of, like, be a good scenario for them. So, yeah, I did see, like, the Sky's a bottom 6, like, maybe a 7th or 8th seed. So that's kind of why I'm, like, feeling pretty all right now. Like, this is not, like, crisis mode or anything like that. We're getting wins. They're tight wins, but they're still wins at the end of the day. I think I had to tweet, like, this time last year, we were, like, maybe 6-11 or something. So kind of over 500 right now feels pretty good. And 3 All-Stars, too.
I think that's the first time since 2015 as well that this guy had been over 500, which is kind of sad.
Right, which is insane. So like, wins kind of feel pretty all right for me at least, and hopefully Sky count.
Have we seen this team ceiling in your mind, or like, do you think that they can break through it even more than they kind of have? I mean, a lot of people were not expecting the Sky to be, an upper echelon team. I mean, do you think we've seen the ceiling of this team?
Definitely not. I think even like Diamond has said it herself in a few interviews where she doesn't even think she's hit any ceiling of any sort right now. There definitely were people unsure about like her NBA All-Star selection also, so I think there's still a lot of potential there. So I think along with that, that bench is pretty strong. The 3 of Copper, Williams, and Parker. But there's additional ones like Astun and Dor. I think I pronounced that probably wrong, but like Katie Lou, I'm pretty sure a lot of like hashtag Lou Hive out there, hoping she gets minutes at some point. Chloe Jackson also, and then Jamira is still like working her way into it. There's definitely it's really, I think we're waiting for some consistency, and I think that like the potential out there is that to get the Sky to have some consistency with their starting five and not relying on them so much, and then having their bench like produce pretty well. So yeah, I think there's still things that could still develop, and I feel like there's still a way that the Sky can like continue a win streak and kind of keep going towards that potential.
I agree. I mean, to me, the fate of their ceiling depends on Diamond and Allie. Like, I think we know by now what we are going to get from the bench and like the complementary role players on this team, and they've been great. Especially, I mean, I love what Kalia Copper's doing right now, and
right.
I mean, Cheyenne's like first half of the season was great, or like first half of the season was great. But I mean, I do think like the bench is pretty set, but we've seen flashes of what like Diamond and Allie can do. Now we just kind of need them to reach their peaks as like we enter the second half of the season. I think that's where their ceiling. It really does depend on what those two players are going to be able to do offensively. So. This team has been pretty banged up all season, and they will finally get a break after they play the Fever next Sunday, I believe it is. The All-Star game is in 10 days, and I mean, I think the reserves were also announced today, or no, yesterday, that's what it was. So that included Diamond DeShields, Courtney Vandersloot, and Allie Quigley. Brian, in your mind, did all three of these players deserve to be on the team, and are there any Sky players missing from the All-Star game roster?
I'm going to say yes. I'll take the homer out here. You saw my Twitter feed. I was kind of freaking out a bit. I didn't see it coming. I saw it kind of logistically happening where, like, Courtney would make it, Allie would make it with just her great shooting and her three-point competition, like, redemption, like, contest thing. But, yeah, Diamond was kind of surprising. Having three All-Stars, along, like, I think that's the only other team that with three All-Stars are the Aces, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's not like we're, like, top 2 seeded or top 3 seeded, but we still kind of have 3 while others have 2 only. It feels a bit awkward, but
yeah,
I have to say, like, I'm all for it. This team doesn't get to this point without all 3 of those. Like, all 3 of their contributions. So it is, like, really difficult. I saw a few articles saying it was really difficult to kind of narrow it down to the 2 of them. So it kind of just works out it works out for us. That's all 3 of them. But yeah, all 3 are, like, very vital to this team having this record right now. It's not, like, the best record, not, like, a top 5, top 3 record, but without them, it doesn't happen. So it's weird. It's a weird setup, but I'm happy about it.
I agree. I mean, I feel like since the Sky have fallen a bit in the standings, and they improved a little bit today by like 2 games, but I feel like having 3 Sky All-Stars is like the most they should have. Like, and like, don't get me wrong, I feel like where the roster is, like, and we've seen like what this group can do together, like when they're clicking, but fringe players aren't typically rewarded with an All-Star game appearance when their teams don't do that well. And I actually do respect that concept, despite how flawed All-Star games across all sports are. I kind of wish Cheyenne could have been selected. I mean, she just completely dropped the ball in the last 5-6 games, but I wish she could have been selected because she could have, I don't know, I kind of wish she could see that she could potentially be one of the greater post players the league will have in the future. I don't know.
I for something, it seemed like her play has been a little bit off of recent. And I kind of, oddly, like, that coincided with, like, Kalia Copper kind of getting better, and, like, kind of getting her offense kind of going more when Cheyenne, like, wasn't. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I felt like there's a, like, an all-star bid for her, for Cheyenne at some point in the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, she was a prime 6 Woman of the Year candidate for a while now, but I mean, she really has struggled the last few games. Like, I don't think she's had more than 7 points the last 5 games. Like, and they really do need her. Like, I feel like the recipe for this team to really dominate come playoff time is when she is, like, being, like, a brutal force against, like, Jonquel Jones. I don't know. Like, again, that Sun game is just so in my head, not just because I was there in the press section, but just like that is to me like the peak Sky right there. Like they didn't turn the ball over and they're able to stop the Stars from really being able to go off. Like that, she is such a big piece of like what they're doing right now. And I mean, she's arguably their best front court player in terms of pure talent alone. And like, I feel like Cheyenne Parker's peak and like the highest potential is better than Stephanie Dolson's and Jantel Lavender's like right now. Like, so like if she's able to go off, especially like we'll get into what we want to see from this guy in the second half of the season, but that's got to be up there for them in terms of priorities of getting her back on track.
Yeah. I'm hoping for like a good bounce back game from Cheyenne. Like we kind of have like Fever coming up, and then you said like that long break until Connecticut again. So, I think these are just waves. It like comes on, it comes off. So hopefully she's back on.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that game against the Fever is going to be important for her. I mean, I just think like any player in any sport that's struggling going into the All-Star game just needs one game where they're like, okay, I can take a breather after having this one great performance.
Yeah.
I think we both can agree that Sluty is the most underrated point guard in the game. And, I mean, she was selected as a reserve in 2011, but somehow hasn't made another appearance at the All-Star game since then, which I think is an absolute crime, just given where she's at historically, and the all-time stats, and especially assists. Which years, if any, in her career should she have been elected to the All-Star game, just based on your own fandom and like how long you've been following the Sky?
That's a fantastic question. And I have like zero idea. I'll be honest with my Sky fandom. It was more casual around like the Sylvia Fowles draft and then like the EDD draft. I became like a definitely hardcore fan around actually when EDD was traded.
Okay, yeah.
For some reason that was like the turning point for me where I started like wanting to follow like everything this team does. So for Sluty, it's been weird that she's like hasn't been a part of just any All-Star game. I think a lot of it had to do with kind of missing the start of the seasons due to like overseas basketball, playing for like I'm not gonna know these names so well, but YDU Yakin something, and the most recently with UMMC Canterbury. I should look these up again, but just her overseas teams, because she had like a Hungarian citizenship, I believe. She's like able to play on these like super teams because she doesn't count like under their like their Americans cap or whatever. I should know. I should look this up better, but I know it's like something of that nature. But a lot of those years, like she didn't even like start, or she didn't even start the season with the team. She was still overseas. Even like most recently as like 2017, I remember like she didn't start, and we had like Cappy Pondexter starting at point guard, and that was like the first time Allie Quigley had like her starting role as like shooting guard, and that actually kind of bolted like Allie Quigley into like an all-star level player too, like having her not a sixth woman but having her start. So then like I felt like that like takes out like a Vandersloot year to be an all-star. Kind of just like stuff like that, like some like weird variables that just made Sluty kind of just hidden, not really like in the forefront of people's minds, and I felt like that was like a reason why like this, like she definitely like lacks a lot of all-star games. There's even like this time with EDD there, Epiphany Prince too. It just like the timing like didn't really work out for Sluty, but luckily she's on there again.
No, I agree. It's like if you go back through the numbers too, they don't like. I think she said it best when she said that her game doesn't really translate to the All-Star game.
Right.
And it's like I feel like a lot of fans that vote in the All-Star game, they don't typically go by what they actually watch on the screen because it's all about box score dominance. And I hate to say it, but like if you go through her WNBA page, like she does, like those numbers don't scream at you. I think the only case you can really not only make, but I do think that her best case for like why she should have been an All-Star that like in any year that she wasn't was last year. And I mean, I honestly would have put her in the All-Star game over Allie Quigley just based on importance and like what she did for that team. Like, I mean, both of those players deserve to be there, obviously, but I had to pick. I went to a lot of those games last year because I was a beat reporter covering the team, and I mean, you just marvel at what she does on the court when you watch her live, and unfortunately, that just doesn't grasp WNBA fans in terms when it comes to the voting. And I guess you can also make the case that last year she shouldn't have been an All-Star just because I don't know if you remember like the 10-game stretch last year, like immediately after the All-Star game, but she was averaging 16, 10, and 5 during that 10-game span and had, you know, the 7th triple-double in WNBA history. Other than that, though, there's really not much of a case against her. I mean, she's going to go down as one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game of basketball, and she's not going to be someone who's known as a perennial all-star. I mean, I think we'll have some more revisionist history with this once she's elected to the Hall of Fame. And I think that actually, I mean, that is inevitable in my opinion. I mean, she is, one of my favorite stats about her is that she is the fastest person, she's played the least amount of minutes of anyone in the top 26 in career total assists. And she's like, what, right now, she's 7th all-time in career assists. Like, that's just unbelievable to me. So, for this next one, though, Sky Show Chai. I had to work that in there once.
It's Shy.
Shy? My bad.
It's like, I have a hard time saying it too, so.
It was so hard.
Even when I made the handle, I wasn't even sure exactly what I was doing or if I could even say it myself, so.
I was so nervous going into this that you were going to ask for me not to call you Brian and that you were going to be like, I want to keep my true identity under wraps. I was worried I was going to have to say that throughout the whole podcast. But I'm going to give you a number, and I want you to decide whether you would take the over or under on the amount of All-Star games the player I name will go to in the future. So, are you ready for this?
Okay. Sure.
So, Allie Quigley is the person to start this off. Would you take the over or under, or even, you can go even if you want. If the line was set at 2 All-Star game appearances for Allie Quigley, would you take the over or under on that one?
Well, this will be our third one, though, right?
No, I meant, like, my bad, like, from now on. Like, so from starting...
going forward.
Moving forward.
Okay.
2 All-Star games... Yeah, I should have clarified that.
2 All-Star... So the next 2 seasons?
Or just, like, so however long Allie Quigley plays for.
Right. I don't want to put, like, a timetable for...
I know, I don't want to go there.
I'll go the under for that. Yeah, definitely... I feel like she's still going to go, like... back with that 3-point contest. So we could see her in like that capacity. But All-Star, we'll see definitely with the younger players coming up too. Diamond, Gabby, Katie Lou. So yeah, there'll be a transition for sure. So
wait, are you going to take the over or under on that one?
Under. I'll take the under.
Yeah. I agree with you on this one. Like, Allie is 33, and I know we don't want to bring up the timeline. We're not talking about the timeline, but...
Let's not talk about
it. But, I mean, she has shown a slight regression this season in terms of points per game. And like we just talked about, like, the All-Star game is about what the traditional stats that you put up, typically. And, I mean, I do think that if she continues to dominate the 3-point contest, like, she'll just continue to make the All-Star game just because of her image as a sharpshooter, and shooting is the most... I don't know. I feel like it's the most relatable skill in basketball for fans because they can, if they can't dunk, you know, maybe they can be that kid at the gym that can only hit corner threes. Like, they tend to vote for those type of players. I still don't think that she's going to make 2 more All-Star games. I have to take the under on that one as well.
Yeah.
Courtney Vandersloot, would you take the over or under at her making 2 more All-Star games in her career?
Another 2. I can go. I'd probably go even on this one. I probably wouldn't go too crazy. I think her importance on the team is pretty high. She's like lead point guard. She's gonna have the ball in her hands a lot. Behind her, she has like Jameer Falconer, who's like improving. She definitely had like starting level potential or abilities. Jameer did like earlier years before this injury. So like her development still is like really important. But I think like Sluti's still vital to this team, and I think for the future too. We drafted Chloe Jackson too. Like looking long range ahead, but she's still like the assist queen, so I think she gets at least 2.
Man, I don't know about this. I was really torn on this one, especially. And the first 2, I'm glad I picked the first 2 to be the toughest ones. I think I might take the under on this one. And
okay.
I think that again, I do think her game just unless you watch her every game like we do, as, people that create content about around this team, I just feel like the fans are just going to continue to suck for not recognizing her for what she is. And I feel like she has reached her ceiling in terms of what she can do as a scorer. And like you said, with how many young offensive weapons that are on this roster, how could those numbers go up? And if she, was a fringe all-star this year, I don't really know what she's going to do. That's maybe if she averaged 9 assists per game for an entire season, no one in WNBA history has ever done that before. Maybe if she did that, I could see her making more than 2 all-star games down the road. I just have no faith in the fans. I really don't. And I do think the younger players are going to start eating up some of that, some tick, honestly. And at least I hope so. And ideally for the Sky, they won't have to rely on Sloot and Allie Quigley for the next 10 years.
Right. Yeah. The fan vote is a kind of a not helpful for the Sky. I think the highest player initially in those fan votes was Diamond at 18.
Yeah.
And that was right in front of Diana Taurasi, who hadn't played yet. So
well, I'm glad you just mentioned Diamond, because I was going to ask you, would you take the over under at, ready for this one, 5 All-Star game appearances for Diamond?
5. These are good numbers. These are definitely Vegas at the right amount numbers. I'm going with the over for this one though. This is only year 2 for Diamond. I really, one part of me being so happy that she made it this year is that all-stars kind of continue staying as all-stars. You kind of see that with a Candace Dupree or a Tina Charles. These aren't their best top years, but they're still consistent. They're still good players, and everyone knows them as good players. Coaches and media and fans and player ranks and everything. So I think Diamond being on this one it's good to have their first one, and then hopefully that leads to more. 5 is a big number. It would be quite an accomplishment. But I think Diamond gets there. Diamond's potential. I'm really all about it. I'm all for her making that many.
I agree. I'm taking the over on this because Diamond is just at some point in her career is going to piece this together at some point, and when she does, she's just going to be an all-star starter for a long time. I think she is a 20-point per game scorer, and she's a sophomore. The bumps in the road are going to happen, and she just needs to put it all together. I have all the faith in the world that she's just going to become a league-wide gem during the mid-season festivities every year. I really do believe that.
Yeah. I saw what you did there with the gem. So.
I was hoping maybe the audience would catch that one. So how many All-Stars would you? I know this is off script, but how many would you give Diamond? Let's say she plays 15 seasons. She didn't play in Europe over this past year because I think she was just working in the gym on her shot. That helps her chances a lot of being able to play in the WNBA. Or would you? What's the amount of All-Stars games that you see her playing in?
I don't know, statistically how it kind of works out. We definitely have the stars that aren't here in this 2019 season that will definitely factor in all this too. I'd probably go. I think 5 sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I would have to see what Angel McCoughtry her numbers look, and I'd probably just match that because I feel that's the kind of star trajectory that she's kind of on.
I really like that one a lot, actually. I could see that as well. I I do think though that her, like, I don't know if she is going to ever play overseas, but just based on her not doing it this early in her career, like, it'd be kind of weird for her to start going to Europe or just not, practice in the United States and like go play overseas. And then
she wasn't like, I forgot the name again. I cannot pronounce these names, but she was in that Turkish league. That she wasn't like her before she was drafted. And then she like didn't play for them. And then I believe I saw that she went to like China for like a couple games, for like a playoff run.
But these people are like the rest of the league. I mean, they're playing year round, and they don't get that luxury of being able to do that. I mean, the stars do obviously, and like someone like the actually, maybe not the stars because maybe that's unfair. Maybe saying like the most marketable players in the league kind of get that luxury because they don't have. Some of them get those media jobs as well. That I feel like. I mean, that really helps your career. Basketball, as we've seen, and I mean, you've seen it with Breanna Stewart tearing her Achilles in the offseason. Like, basketball is a brutal game to play, and it takes so much out of you. So, I mean, I do think...
definitely to play at a high level, and just seeing, like, today how Diamond plays, too, pretty aggressively. So, you can't really do that forever.
Does anybody fall harder in the league than Diamond to Shields?
I don't think so. She definitely... falls hard.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where the segment gets a little bit interesting because I do think that there's a lot of fringe all-stars, like in terms of potential. So I'm going to go to Stephanie Dolson. What do you take the over or under at one all-star game appearance for Steph?
I'll probably take even. I can see maybe one more coming out. There are a lot of like center all stars. You get your Grinders, Fowles, Cambage, and then John Quell all up in here too. That's missing like a lot of people too. So it would be very difficult. But maybe like one really strong Steph Dolson season kind of gets her at least one. I don't feel super confident about it, but maybe could happen.
So I would take the over if I had had a couple of beers on this one, just because I think there is a path where Stephanie can actually get to a couple of all-star games, and it's only because where the league is going right now, like people love offense, and Steph is a stretch five whose like ability to I feel like she drives shot contesting centers crazy just because of her face-up game and pick and pop game. I feel like that's going to be a trend in the WNBA, that we're going to be seeing a lot of more front court players taking threes and like really opening up their games. Like we have a few players in the league that have that ability, but like I think it's going to become a normalcy. But I think that she does start that trend a little bit more, and that she could. I mean, I don't know. She's marketable too, and she's a face in the WNBA. She's played in the celebrity game a few times on ESPN. I don't think it's just crazy. I think that she just needs to grab more rebounds. Because again, when it comes to traditional stats, people just they fiend over that stuff. So to me, it's just not inconceivable for her to make one All-Star game. Maybe I think I lean closer again if I haven't had those couple of beers, and I normally don't. I think I would take even on this one as well.
I think a lot of the younger players, they really like look up to her too. I remember seeing pre-draft stuff, from Asia Wilson even, or Kalani Brown, saying Stephanie's a player they want to emulate. They very aware of her 3-point shot and her ability to shoot it at a pretty consistent level. So everyone well aware of her abilities and her skills.
Yeah, and she played on UConn. I feel like anyone who goes through that program, you just know who they are, especially in WNBA. Cheyenne Parker, would you take the over or under at 2 All-Star game appearances for Cheyenne?
Oof. Yeah. I was gonna say 1, and then so you had the 2. Again, it'd be tough. I'm probably gonna go the under. Ideally, I think she would. I think I saw some people tweeting about how many non-starters have been in the All-Star game, and I don't know if there were people or there weren't much. But yeah, it's really dependent on if she becomes a starter for the team. I think she still has she signed like a 2-year deal recently, so yeah, and then with Jantel, I think even Jantel has like a 3-year deal with the Sky too, so that like we'll see how that all like turns out and how the future Sky look, but it's all working out well now, so I'll leave it as that, but I'll probably just go under.
I think I would take the under as well, but I also do like Stephanie. I do think there's a path for her to get to more All-Star games than that, just based on how many older front court players there are right now. I mean, they can't last forever. You know what I mean? Like at some point, someone's gonna. I mean, retirement list is going to be put out there, and a lot of front court players are going to be on that list. She does, and then again, and going back to box score dominance, she does the 4 things that we look for in terms of all-star centers. She has the ability to put up big games in terms of points per game, or like just points in any game. She rebounds the ball well. She blocks. I think she has. She's averaging 1.5 blocks per game for the Sky right now, I want to say. And she's a front court player that can kind of shoot as well, or at least she's willing to take threes. So, that's the type of skill set, at least for an all-star. In terms of like her being able to get to multiple ones, though, I think the Sky have to get better as a team before we can even begin, really have a conversation about her being a perennial all-star. But so I'm going to jump ahead to Katie Lou Samuelson. Would you take? Okay. And this one, I'm just going to let you know going into this, I am such a Katie Lou Samuelson stan. Just did so much. Lou Hive. Oh yeah, exactly, the Lou Hive, man. Would you take the over or under at 3 All-Star Game appearances for K-Lou?
And this is her first year.
First year.
I think I would say pretty even on that. I think there's a way that, like in the future, the 2021 or 2022 Chicago Sky, hopefully we're still here and everything. But I could see her like starting, being like basically the Allie Quigley role. I think I tweeted it once she was drafted by the Sky. Like, this is the Allie Quigley like future player. Like this is like Allie Quigley's trainee for like the next few years. I have like so many tweets I haven't like tweeted yet about this, but I think like if Katie Lou can kind of have like the career that Allie Quigley had, but like started a lot earlier. That's a big thing. That's the 3-point shooting. Even though we haven't like seen it like completely yet in the pro level, it could be there. It's all about like the defense, learning how to be like a good defensive player. Something that like Allie has pretty much learned throughout like her veteran seasons. I believe there's a path there, and again, like her marketability, her UConn-ness, #Lou Hive again. There's definitely, I think there's a way that she could definitely get 3. There's a lot of factors though, and there's a lot more variables, and I don't even know how many minutes yet she's had in the WNBA right now. But I think 3 could work. What do you say?
So I agree. Like, she hasn't looked like an all-star like at all in her very, 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 very limited action in the WNBA. And besides that, though, she's like the definition of a prospect. And I thought people were sleeping on her going into this season. And I really believe that she's going to become a stellar WNBA player when she figures out the mental aspect of the game and like gets back to full health. I tweeted at Madeline Kenny, who, if any of you don't follow, definitely follow her. She's got some great updates about the Sky for the Sun Times. But I tweeted at her, like, was Katie Lou Samuelson, does she look healthy going into this season, like at training camp? Because she dealt with a lot of injuries at her UConn season in 2018, 2019. Madeline said that she didn't get that impression, but as from what we've seen from her, like again, from the limited time that Katie Lou has played, I think she did go into the season kind of banged up. And I do think when she does get back to full health, that she's going to be like the Allie Quigley type player that you were just talking about. Eric Nemchuk actually said that like the week before the season started. He was like, "Yeah, I see KLS being that Allie Quigley understudy." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But I think that she can blow past that ceiling. I really do, because I mean, I just think people forget about what she looked like in 2017 and 2018. I mean, that's when she was not limited by injuries. I think she averaged over 20 points per game, and she shot 48% from three on just under 7 attempts per game. Like, that is insane. Like, if you get that player healthy and being able to move around the perimeter in the way that she did in her junior season, and you, like, what Allie doesn't have that Katie Lou does is that Katie Lou is an elite half-court passer, and like she makes a lot of smart decisions. She's not going to be like Sloot, where she is able to like make these incredible half-court heaves that somehow land in front of the player that she was passing to, and the defender has no way of getting to it. She's not going to make those type of passes, but she makes a lot of smart decisions, and that's why I think that like she's going to be a great WNBA player if she finds a way to get back to full health. And I know I'm willing to die over my KLS take, so give me the over on 3 All-Star games. I believe in you, Katie Lou, and so does the Lou Hive.
Hashtag Lou Hive.
Woo!
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting her off season also. This will be like her first non-college off season. I believe I saw that she already signed with like a French team for this upcoming after the WNBA season ends. So it'll be interesting to see like with more playing time how she looks out there like at a professional level. I just know like Allie Quigley, like she got to like this level with like building muscle and conditioning and everything, and I want just like Katie Lou just to follow that kind of mold and get really toned and just like super strong and like she like doesn't have to deal with any more like injury problems in the future.
Agreed.
That's kind of just the Splash Sisters like future I'm envisioning, but we'll see.
I want to see it this season. Oh my god,
That's it.
We'll see. So this one actually, I've got one more single player ones before I have this one crazy line to give you. So Gabby Williams, let's just do this one quickly. I feel like we'll have the pretty similar takes with this one. Would you take the over or under at 2 All-Star game appearances for Gabby?
It's really interesting, like what her position will be in the future from now into the future. Whether it be like point guard or just the Swiss Army knife that she is. I'll take the over on it. I think she's just pretty dynamic on the floor, and I mean anyone can see it. Like she had a pretty good pass today during the Atlanta Dream game that led to like a Jameer Faulkner foul attempt. So. Yeah, I'll take the over. There's a lot of still potential there. She doesn't have the height as everyone else, but she has a heart for sure. So WNBA All-Star.
So I'm glad. I thought we were going to agree on this one, and I'm glad that we disagree, because I'm definitely taking the under on this one, just because I don't know what her long-term fit is with this team. Because I do think that James Wade, even with just the little time that he's had with this guy, he's already taken I think they're fully invested on him, at least for the next 3-4 years. I don't think he has to worry about his job security, just based on how he's taken the reins with this team. And he said, I think it was 3 games ago, he said something along the lines of that he looked at Gabby and he said, you know what, you're a point guard, Gabby. That's what you are in this league. And if the idea is that they're going to keep Chloe Jackson, Kalia Copper, Sloot's only 30, so she easily could have another fantastic 5 to 6 years. I really hope she does. There's just a lot of build up in the backcourt that I wonder how Gabby's going to fit in. I love what she's done. I'm going to get into that later on in this, but I don't know how she's going to fit in and at least get all-star minutes. You know what I mean? That's what it really comes down to. How many opportunities is she going to get? I mean, earlier this season, she her per 36 stats, she was at 14, 5, and 5. I mean, and that's all-star numbers right there. And I just don't know if she's going to get the opportunity just because of how crowded the backcourt is. And I think she would benefit. I hope this doesn't happen, because every team needs a Gabby Williams type player, at least Gabby Williams type defender. But I do wonder if she would benefit from being on a different team that would just be like, hey, Gabby, we're investing 30 minutes per game into you, and we believe in your two-way like potential of your two-way ability. I think that's her best situation for me. I could see her like in terms of her path to becoming an all-star. I feel like that would be the most ideal scenario, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully that she's an all-star for the Sky.
Like, the Sky can also like become that for her, like with like shooting, like from all like positions, and like having her kind of do like the drive and kick type of move. But yeah, it's all kind of variable right now.
I mean, that's what's kind of great about being a young team. You actually have some time to figure out what you want to do with all these great pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of the reasons why I like really became a hardcore fan too was like these young pieces coming in. Like there's potential there. Do we like see it? Does it like come together? It's all like very intriguing stuff. So
absolutely.
But, yeah.
So you ready for this crazy line?
Okay.
So between Chloe Jackson, Kalia Copper, Astu Nador, Jantel Lavender, and Jameer Faulkner, so pretty much the rest of the Sky roster outside of the ones that I just named, would you take the over or under on them collectively making 3 All-Star games?
Ooh, 3 is a big number, and I would have to say probably not.
Yep.
Probably take the under on that. I could think maybe like a Jantel Lavender having like a good year, like having another All-Star appearance, if things like shake out right. Yeah, it's tough though. I mean, there's like 144 players in the league. And how many of them are like turn into like all-stars with amongst these 12 teams? So it's very tough. So definitely no disrespect to like their abilities or skills, but gotta take the under.
Absolutely, you take the under. And I think let's just appreciate that the Sky have this many productive pieces coming off of the bench. You know, like
for sure.
Kalia Copper. I mean, every team needs that type of player. I really love her and Gabby Williams together, just the type of players they are.
I even saw like James Wade like saying like Kalia could be like a starter in this league too. So we're like just like lucky to have her off the bench.
Yeah,
and yeah, that rings pretty true.
So I think it's fun talking about the All-Star game and the first half of the season up to this point. But I mean, the teams that are in the middle of the pack, and we're literally describing the Sky right now with that phrase. But the season really starts right after, the mid-season festivities. And I guess with that in mind, I just want to go back and forth with you about like some things that we just want to see from the Sky in the second half. So, what is one of the things that you want to see from this team as they enter the second half after the All-Star game on the 27th?
That's a great question. I think this is probably like pandering to the hashtag Blue Hive, but I think I'd like to see more minutes, like bench minutes from roster spots, like 9 to 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw like a little bit more of a Stu like playing a backup 5 today. Jameer had a few minutes, and nothing yet for Lou and Chloe. But yeah, just maybe just more like development and establishment of that kind of squad. It feels like a lot of minutes for our starters, especially our veteran starters, Allie, Sloot, even Jantel a little bit. So kind of like having a strong bench mob that like goes 1 to 5 would be pretty helpful, especially developing them now for either the future Sky or even like come the playoffs when it might end up being like an elimination game, but you want just everyone there and focused and like ready to play at a moment's notice. I used to saw lineups where I feel like Wade can like have Katie Lou play like even like the 2, like 3 spot instead of like Allie, so it'd be like Gabby, Diamond, Cheyenne, Stu, and then like Lou in there. Kind of just have her develop. Again, like more like point guard minutes for Jameera. Get her going, get her like feeling out like the court again. It feels like it's kind of tough to keep going with these top 8, kind of pushing them to the limits, and kind of like playing like hard, like difficult games that like go to the very end. Like blowouts really happen outside like that the Connecticut Sun game, and like another one. But yeah, just more from like 9 to 12 would be kind of ideal.
Absolutely. Sloot's played too many minutes. I mean, I was saying this to Eric last week when I had him on the pod, and he said, well, I was just saying like that there was one game where I think they were playing the Storm, or no, it was the Sun. I made that exact same mistake last week too. I was during the Sun game, they took out all of their starters going into the fourth quarter, and Wade had to play Sloot, Allie Quigley, and Diamond because, I mean, they just didn't have enough players, really. I mean, this is when Katie Lou was down, Jamira was down, Chloe was down. I mean, they've played so many minutes, and maybe that's kind of hurt their performance this year, is just having to deal with these injuries that just really clog up. I mean, they really do add up, especially when the two most important players are 30 and 33 years old. And because the Sky are just kind of in this weird position right now where they are rebuilding, but they have these veterans who want to compete. And I mean, like, there's only like 3 true veterans on this team. If you, I don't know, maybe 4, like with Jamira, but like it's Courtney, Allie Quigley, and I mean, you could say Steph, but like it's weird for me to say that too. And Jantel. I guess there's more than I'm letting on, but like even Stephanie Dolson, like it feels like yesterday the Elena Deladon trade happened, and like she was considered like a prospect going into, like with that trade. So it's just weird. Like the Sky are like rebuilding, but they're also trying to make a playoff push. I feel like you're right. You kind of have to roll the dice a little bit with these 9 through 12 players, and it's hard to do that when you don't know if you like, what the direction of the organization wants to go really with like making that playoff push, or like getting some minutes for like Katie Lou. Like Katie Lou, ideally Katie Lou should have played in today's game, right? I mean, like against the Dream when she wanted to face a struggling team that go. I mean, I think they have the worst win percentage in the WNBA right now. It's like, what are we doing? Like, it seems a little bit weird with that. I think maybe that might be my only criticism with James Wade. It's just not really. I don't know. I think in the second game of the season, Katie Lou also was benched. It's just like, I don't know. It's a weird. They're in a weird position with that, but they're still pushing through despite that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird that Wade kind of like wants to play Katie Lou at the 4 position a lot too. Like it's more like she's a post player instead of like a perimeter player. I think even in training camp, I saw like a few videos of she was like playing with the post. Always, I think she in like an article with like Chicago Tribune, she was saying like I haven't played the post before, but so it's like a new thing for me. And it makes sense like offensively, like having a 3-point shooter at like the power forward position, and then defensively too, like she's like not the fastest, so maybe put her at the 4 would make sense. But I kind of personally want to see her at like a 3 or a 2 spot, just really capitalize on that shooting. But then that also like lets up on some defensive like spots too. So it's weird, and I definitely trust Wade more than I do myself. So whatever his decisions, usually hopefully can keep working out. But yeah, I think #LouHive just wants to see the Katie Lou.
I'm going to let you know right now. I actually asked James Wade about this, one of the games I went to this season, and he gave me a death stare when I asked him about like how he's experimented with Lou at the 4, and he said if she's her goal is to become one of the best 4s in the league, and that's what we're going to play her at. So I think that's what. I mean, I also do think that she's too slow to play the 2. Like, I know she played the. I mean, she's listed as a guard. Like last year when I was doing research, she was listed as a guard, and she played the 2 and the 3. So I mean, it's not unreasonable for you to want to see that. I just think the backcourt players in this league are just too quick for her to really stay in front of them throughout an entire game. I just don't think that the mobility is there, and I mean that's okay. I mean, I think that she can be a successful 4. I think she just has to learn how to play the position, and it's doable. I get my first thing for what I want to see from the Sky. Wow, that went so long. I don't only want to see this, Brian. Like, I need to see this. Diamond needs to become a 20-point per game scorer in the second half, and she said she wanted to go after the MVP this year, and she's had some MVP type performances, but she's also had some sophomore and training performances that kind of let's just call it what it is. Like that has branded her season as being inconsistent, and I mean, I don't know. Like during some stretches against the Dream today, like she had tunnel vision with the rim, and I was so happy because it was like finally you're like you are doing what we've all like we expect you to do on day one of the season. That's just to take over offensively and shoulder, shoulder those offensive responsibilities when Ali and Courtney are off the floor, and the team just needs someone to turn to. And she did that a little bit today, and we saw, the result speaks for itself. And she's just too good of a player not to just take the training wheels off and just let her go. Like, she just needs to shoot 15 times a game. And I just hope that Wade empowers her by giving her the keys to the offense when the Sky need to go on a run. I don't know. Like, is that too much to ask for Diamond, especially from what we've seen from her this season?
I think there's a lot of just feeling out of her abilities too. There's definitely maybe there's a missing she definitely has the confidence, but she also I think she has a lot of respect for her veterans too, and I think that goes along with she's not gonna be the one that dominates because she really really respects Vandersloot and Quigley and their abilities and what they know and what they can get done. So I think part of it is that she could be willing to be that 20-point scorer, but I think there's just a lot of deferral just because just being young and being really respectful of your vets.
But that's the weird part about this, though, right? Because it's this is why the Sky are in that, we just talked about how they're in that position where they're developing players, but they also are trying to make the playoff push. I don't think that you can just wait around for Diamond to really just coach her and in the way that you would treat someone that is developing their game. And I know that's weird to say because again she's a second-year player, but she's also come out and said that she wants to be this type of superstar and she's ready to do it.
Yeah,
it's
did she say she wanted to be MVP?
Oh yeah.
I actually made one tweet that got way too viral.
Of course it was that.
I think she said something else on the video, and I kind of put just the old Derrick Rose, Chicago knows Derrick Rose saying why can't I be MVP?
Yeah.
So I put it on top, and then I think it got NBA Twitter buzzing about it, so they kept retweeting. I don't know, but yeah, I think she did say it at least one time somewhere, but I knew I made a weird tweet about it before. It wasn't quite exactly.
I don't know why. I feel like I distinctly remember her saying that she could be, but I just feel like if this team is going to be successful, she's the best pure scorer they have. And I know it's hard, mixing, trying to figure out, this player has so much raw talent, but then we also need them to be the player that we expect her to be in 3 years. It's a weird dynamic that they have right now, and I just think that she has that ability in her right now. As of right now, I think she has that ability. But the Sky also whip the ball around, and they are much more pass happy than they were last year. So maybe it's not going to... I just want her to have the mentality of being a 20-point per game scorer, and sometimes we don't see that from her.
Yeah, and then again, I think that parallels again with the careers of the early careers of of Angel McCautry and Tamika Catching. So I definitely don't know their history as well, but I always wonder how they developed into the stardom that they gained. So I something like that, even a Kepi Pondex or what does it take to develop from being a good player out there versus a superstar?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So what is your second thing that you want to see?
I think again, I think it's a lot with kind of Cheyenne Parker. She's definitely started the season really well. Being it seemed the number one bench scoring option, and kind of just turned and hasn't had as many good games of recent. So maybe just going back to that, I feel she usually has the talent to beat out whatever other bench the opponent has. So and now with a full roster in our team again with the rosters 9 to 12, I think just maybe trying to establish her a bit more as number one bench option. I know Kalia Copper's also come on pretty strong too. But yeah, I think I just want to have a good end of the season for Cheyenne. She's doing. She's done great. She keeps doing great. But that consistency would definitely help the final half of the season.
I mean, that's what this team needs. It's just consistency. If I could just insert one thing into them, it would just be, I would inject that consistency, give them that shot.
You definitely don't know like what you're coming into when you're watching a Sky game. Again, like a roller coaster again. Like even today, of just, is this a game that we're gonna have it all to come together? Oh, it's not in the beginning. Okay,
exactly.
Let's just keep going.
It's just like either they'll blow out the sun or they'll lose to the dream. It's just like what's happening right now.
Yeah, but we won though. So
yeah, no, absolutely, no slander, but I really hope that, and this is my second thing, I really hope that Jamira Faulkner doesn't take away too many minutes from Point Gabby. I mean, we kind of saw that happen today, and I'm not sure it's the right move because Gabby has been fantastic as Sloot's backup, and I know that Wade wants to do right by his veteran Jamira Faulkner. I think her, Allie Quigley, and Courtney Vandersloot are the only ones still left of that 2014 championship team that didn't win, but they. Like I understand wanting to give you want them to you want to give your veterans minutes just from what they do even like off the court, but Gabby adds something else that other teams like at least their second units just can't defend. I feel like it's just, or at least she kind of reminds me of like Jordan Canada in the way that she's able to defend. Like she can pick up someone from just pick them up like full court and just make it harder for the one on the opposing team. So I don't know. I really hope that Jamira Faulkner doesn't take away too many minutes from Gabby, just because I think that Gabby's kind of earned the role that she's been playing as Sloot's backup. But what do you think of that? Do you think that Jamira should be? I mean, when come playoff time, would you rather have like the reliable veteran in Jamira, or would you rather like go with someone like kind of like the energy that that Gabby brings night to night?
Yeah, that's a good question. And hopefully this guy gets to that point too. Also, in that playoff role too. But if we're talking about it now, I'd have to see how it just develops. Jamira, just how she is at that point, and I don't know if they're going to continue to develop this Point Gabby, Point Gabby. And maybe she can be like a power point Gabby now, and at like the 4. Even, or like the 3 or the 4 instead, but while still having like Jamira out there too. Maybe she could still take some offense, be the point guard at some points while Jamira's maybe behind the 3-point line or something. Maybe hopefully James Wade has this all kind of figured out in his head of how it's gonna work out together. So I think it's gonna be interesting going forward. I don't know if I have an answer really, but I think there could be a way where it kind of works out all together with Gabby and Jamira and whatever the point guard position is.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. What is your third thing?
What is my third thing? I think back to consistency. Just making sure that the Sky fans, the media, everyone kind of knows what they're coming into when they face the Sky, whether it be a crazy offensive scoring team or a strong defensive team, a team that has a lot of pace. And I think that just goes with the development of what this team wants to look like or be to win games in this league. It still does seem like this. As a Sky fan watching a game, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, which is exciting. But you always want to win and make sure your team does well and the players do well to have success. So consistency. Yeah, no,
absolutely. I mean, it'll always be their Achilles heel. Defense and turnovers. Defense turnovers, those would be nice to sharpen up a little bit. But
for sure.
No, but I mean, they can show that they can play their game and win even when they do go off the rails a little bit. But I mean, it would be if they are going to make that playoff push, consistency definitely needs to be the thing we see in the second half. I feel like this team needs to find one more scoring option on its roster because I feel like they have a lot of options in front of them. And I think Kalia Copper is the person for this team that's going to be that spark, definitive spark plug, just because she has that diamond tenacity that we've all come to love, but also it's just important for any team to have. And she also gets to the line, which I think is something that the Sky have struggled with this season. But I mean, there's so many candidates on this team for like that quote unquote fourth scoring option. Like Cheyenne has had a few double digit scoring performances this year, but I mean, she's been inconsistent. We've already talked about that. Jantel has been great as of late, but she also hasn't averaged over 10 points per game since 2015. I mean, Stephanie Dolson, again, she's great one game, and then she can kind of fall back a little bit. Whoever it is on this team, I just think they need that reliable fourth like scoring option that just get the job done when one of the three dragons and Sloot, Quigley, and Diamond, like when one of them goes down and like not goes down but just doesn't catch fire, and especially with like 4 minutes left, like they got to have one more person they can turn to a little bit to rejuvenate the offense. I think that's one of my biggest criticisms of this team is just sometimes in the last 3 minutes of a tight game, they kind of look around and waiting for someone to step up. And Courtney's been able to be, to step up and get the clutch basket or make the right pass to get the clutch basket at the end of games like we saw today. But I don't know. I think that they need one more person that can score 8 to 10 points per game, and that the Sky know that they can depend on that option, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? I mean, I do think the dark horse candidate for this role has to be Katie Lou Samuelson, right? I mean, there is, right after the draft, James Wade said that he wanted to use her right away. And, maybe it's too late in the season because she's missed too many games, like, for her to fully integrate herself into the rotation. But is it possible? I mean, with one half of the season left for a rookie that says, is a project defensively at least. I mean, is it inconceivable for the Sky to turn to her and be like, hey, we need you to start, be the 3-point threat that you were in college?
Yeah, I think there's a universal timeline out there where she becomes an Allie Quigley force on the floor where her 3-point shooting is so good and trusted that defenses are shifting in that way. I don't know if I even know stats that well, but I feel like there's a way that she could become something like that. It would take a lot of just her ability and her talent to shine through, and more playing time and everything. There's a timeline out there where it happens. We'll see if it's this one or not.
God, I hope it was. Yeah. I just wanted to see her so badly this season.
Right.
But
there's still time.
Yeah, there's still time, and I hope that we do get to see her a little bit this season. So I want to turn to some off the court stuff because I looked at your website and I think it's great. And sadly enough, one of the most fascinating elements of the WNBA, just in terms of the conversation of about the league, is just the lack of resources it is provided. And I mean, you are an outspoken member of the WNBA Twitter community, and I mean, you've touched on this issue many times. You've posed the question many times. What is this league lacking in terms of the lack of merchandise? I mean, let me rephrase that. You have a website dedicated to WNBA fans who want to buy merchandise, but don't know where to go to get it. What is the league lacking in this area of its marketing, and what would you do to improve this situation?
Yeah, I just remember when I first started this Twitter, the idea was I wanted to buy something WNBA related. I even think I saw the Winsidr REA looking around on Twitter trying to find a jersey of some sort, and I just really wasn't sure why it was so hard to that all this information was compiled together. When you buy any NBA merch, it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. But the WNBA one, it's not. You kind of have to search through, see where it exactly is. So I just put together an article of where all the links are, where all the resources are, and putting together that article, it's not that many places. I'm a big proponent of just merch is how a fandom kind of grows. You really feel connected when you end up buying something that has that team's logo or that team's just insignia or anything like that. So I just think it's not even the most expensive thing to do. I mean, that's me saying that doesn't really have a clue exactly behind the scenes, but I don't think it's the biggest like a problem to like make merch and like provide it to fans. Even help develop their fandom, help them to grow, help them even like kind of share that fandom with like whoever else they're with or family or whoever else, their friends or anything like that. It was just, I always just thought it was missing. There's a lot of like pieces of merch that's like not available, like a bunch of like retro stuff I keep talking about more recently, even stuff for kids or younger than that, or any just even like a simple like player shirt. I know we couldn't even really find last season or 2 seasons ago. So yeah, I just think merch is an easy marketing like solution here. Like you see people like wearing WNBA merch, you're like definitely like as a WNBA fan, you're like intrigued, like oh yeah, they're also like part of this like community. They also like the WNBA. It just makes sense to me. That's how you like continue to develop this league. So yeah, I just have like a hashtag WNBA We Need Merch.
Yeah.
And I just like say any merch injustice that I see out there, I use that hashtag and like tweet it. Just whether it be just something that's missing, something that like someone wants, something like that people can't get on like Twitter. Because everyone always like likes to complain on Twitter, so just finding those like merch problems, kind of like just show it out there and see. Hopefully, the league can see it. I mean, I know like we just got a new commissioner today, so hopefully it's just something I feel like I could develop and show how dedicated like the commissioner is to this league and just help develop it. And like in this, it's like only definitely one part of it, but I feel like focusing on it and improving it will help the league as a whole.
I agree. I mean, going into this season, there were only 8 items offered on the WNBA's website for Sky apparel. And, I mean, the WNBA just won't put money towards this, and it's ridiculous because you're right. I mean, merchandise is a huge part of fandom. You feel represented, and, like, you feel like a part of the team, honestly. You're wearing the same colors. I mean, you have your favorite player's number on your back. It's just like you feel a part, especially like in the energy at Wintrust. You really do feel like you're a part of it, and it's a shame. I mean, in terms of Sky apparel, just for everybody else, like where's the best place to go for WNBA merchandise? Because it's sure as hell not on the WNBA's website.
Well, yeah, I think just like starting you kind of start with like the Sky store. I have like that article that has like all the links to everything, but you definitely start with like the Sky themselves, seeing what they have to offer, and they've definitely improved from last year of like merchandise they've had. I in part I think because of like my just constant tweeting and saying and this hashtag and everything, I feel like they've like made improvements. I think they do like see what's happening in like in WNBA Twitter and kind of like adjusted in that way. But yeah, also just like Fanatics, Dick's Sporting Goods too. It's kind of all on the website, but
yeah,
you could just kind of just see where they are. There's like really only like 3 or 4 places, but and hopefully ideally that kind of just grows, and that's what I'm hoping for.
No, definitely. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap this all up?
No, not too much. I kind of just have my tweets and my Instagram posts, a few articles here and there. Just follow me at the Sky Show Shy. Just for anything Chicago Sky related or random WNBA tweets or anything like that. I really just enjoy the community, just talking, everybody tweeting at everyone. The humor is pretty good too. And yeah, I just try to do my best to keep growing the Sky fan experience in my own little way, and trying to get more Chicago Sky fans and Chicago sports fans to follow this team, because we're doing pretty good. I mean, it's 3 All-Stars, so yeah, that's my whole spiel.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the pod, and seriously, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and hopefully we can have you back on later this season, because I'm sure you'll have plenty of takes. I won't miss any of them on Twitter. Like I said, it's impossible to miss you. So,
yeah, I tweet way too much. I definitely.
Oh no, I need more. I need more. I mean, I love it so much. But Brian, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you, James, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Skyhook. If you want to contact us, you can always do so at theskyhookmailbag@gmail.com. And we strongly encourage you to rate and review our podcast on Podbean or Apple Podcast. And, you know, I'm excited for next week's episode. I mean, we got 10 days until the All-Star game. I cannot believe it's around the corner already, but here we are. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, James K., and until next time, my friends.